Let's talk about muddy painting. We'll look at why some of your drawings look muddy and some of the reasons why and some things you are not looking at. In the video, we'll start with why it looks muddy, common mistakes that make colors feel dull, because that is one of the reasons. The colors will feel dull, and we'll also look at how to use values without losing your colors. Remember, we talked about values in our last video, the darkness and lightness of an image. We'll also look at choosing and mixing colors efficiently, effectively, avoiding excessive blending. What makes the painting read is not blending, it's understanding shapes, contrast, values, especially values. We'll look at edges also. They are not silhouette, they are edges, lost edges, soft edges, hard edges, sharp edges, and how to using clean edges to make painting readable, and simple ways to keep your paintings fresh and vibrant. So we are going to be using this image you see here for our demonstration, our demo, and you just need to pay attention. It's muddy painting has less to do with the way you pick colors on the color wheel, but it's understanding the idea behind those things. So let's get started. First, why digital painting start looking muddy? If you watched our last video, we made some examples. So I'm going to get flat oil. The color you use or the paintbrush you use doesn't really matter. But we are going to be using this, and we are going to be doing two things. I'm going to duplicate this so you understand some things we are going to be working on. I'm going to take this part also. So first, we are going to break this down with using just color values, black, dark, and light. So I'm just quickly going to map things out using values, and you are going to see how the image will actually read. So first we come with this. We see the glasses, filled glasses over there, and coming here and shaping that a little bit better. His mouth, his ear is over here, the beads. No, it's just a quick sketch. His hair also over here, the flower leaf rather, at the back of his head. Feel that. I'm going to come add this. We can come here and start adding some light to show the light entering the image, light on his forehead. Fill that form, and then we'll show light at the back, the background. Now, this we are looking at already reads. We can see everything there. We can pinpoint different forms in the image. And why is that? It's because the shapes as they say still the edges, because when you draw, we capture shapes or capture edges using shapes. So the idea of using outline is not to start thinking as the form as having a silhouette or outlines. You can see my face. What we have is edges, and I've explained this before in our last video. So now, what will now make an image like this start feeling muddy, or a painting, is when there's a hard a little difference between edges, between values, no much contrast. Saturation in an image, if you take the saturation and also the contrast, rather, if you take the contrast a little bit too high, everything will be just white like that. So because we can no longer differentiate values, if I take this same image and I do this, now watch what I'll do. Still the same thing. Okay, let me just take this image here and duplicate it and bring it over here so you understand. So let's say I take this same image, and then for the hair we do this, and we still the same outlines I just painted, but now you see me painting over it with a lighter color. And then what starts happening? We can't read the forms anymore. Though I'm following exactly the same outlines I followed in this image here. So it becomes an issue. The same outline exists here, the same outline exists over here also. The same thing exactly. You saw me duplicate the image, but unfortunately this reads better. This one here, unfortunately this one here reads better. And why is that? It's because the edges is well defined. And how is it well defined? Using values. This point is dark, this point is light, we can differentiate it. But when this point is light, this point is also light, it becomes really hard for us to differentiate those forms. Most people, I remember when I started digital painting, and there were some great good painters out there, and they would say, the reason your painting look muddy is because you are taking colors from this area of the color wheel. But that is not the case. It's not the case. The main reason is that value. There are some kind of light. You need these colors here, these exact colors I just pinpointed or they talked about. You need those colors to make those painting cool of the evening, just before noon. Those colors. So it's not that you are picking the wrong colors. Is your thought process on those colors are wrong. The values are not reading. I think by now the idea of some people. So if instead of making every point light, sometimes you might be painting. Let's say, let me make this sketch. Let's say we have this thing sitting on the floor, and then we have shadow here. Let's just do this. Some people think if they want to make, let's say, I want you to think about it like we are painting. Let's say then I take and I add lights here. Some people think, if I want this to become even lighter, all I need to do is to find a lighter point, and they keep going till they get to the lightest light, and they can no longer do anything. And unfortunately, since they have played on this light too much, they can no longer, lighten the area, and everything start becoming muddy. What you need to do is to darken the areas around those points, not to start lighting everything again. It's just to darken the area around those points, and everything starts reading again. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Most of the time, how do people end up with stuff like this? How do they end up with stuff like this all over again? It's because of those reasons. Good painters, they can sketch, they can draw, but when it's time to add the colors now, they start messing it up in values. That's why one of the best advice you give to beginners and even pros is don't use the lightest lights. We always talk about that. If you look at painters like Sargent, J.C. Leyendecker, Norman Rockwell, you'll notice they don't use the lightest light. You can look at some of Sargent painting of ladies in white dresses, and most people who have looked at those images say it's not white. Sometimes it's green, sometimes it's blue, but it's not pure white. And then why could he capture it? Because he was toning it down. He was working and thinking about the values. Let me bring a painting. There's a painting I worked on. It's a really old painting I worked on, and it has to do with same kind of rendering. I've seen one, but I'm looking for another. Okay, I'm going to bring this, place it on top. I'm going to bring another one. There are other examples also. We're going to look at them. This also. Now, if you look at this thing you see here, the light we see here, the light hitting the image, and you might wonder how come it reads as a full coat. This is very light. Definitely, I think you can see from that this is really lit. It's really lit. Look at the light on the head also. Let me bring it down. The light on the head, on this point, the light here, the light here. You can easily see that the light is coming from this area, and it's hitting the form. These points are dark, this point is lit. This was a quick study I created. But now if we take the color tool, the color picker, so you start seeing these the lights we're talking about. You see, it's not up to the lightest light. We come down also this edge here. The same thing, not to the lightest light. The light you see on his head also is not white. So you are seeing it. It's not white. The light on his glasses is not the highest though. This is the highest. This is the highest. So it's not the highest. This is what we have there. This is the highest. So you can see the difference. So why do we do that? Even the light on the window, not the highest. This is the highest. So if I wanted those areas to be lighter, what I'll do, rather than continue adding more light to that point, the same thing with his white shirt. It's blue. This is the white also. So rather than keep on adding light to that point, you darken the environment, and this will help you when you do your stuff also. So let me turn this off. So you want something to be lit, you have been working on it, and unfortunately you have added white, but unfortunately it's not to that point. So what you need to do, the areas close to it, if we darken the areas close to it, what we get is it brings out the whiteness of that point. It creates that outline and makes it more readable. So those are some mistakes people make. They add more lights, and unfortunately when they get to that lightest light, the highest light, unfortunately they can't reduce it down anymore, because they have gone there and they still want more light, and unfortunately other areas are light. That is why that light is not reading very well. So instead of toning that down, they continue adding more light, and it makes the whole thing muddy. So think about that. So using values, when we talk about using values, to know where your darks are. If you are painting someone outside, in the outside world, lit by the sun, ambient light all over the individual, what you ought to do is to work with tonal value. I said this the last time. Where the form turns, that is where you add the dark start coming in. That is the simple truth. You see the way his cheeks is round, the way it turns. That is when you start adding your shadow. That is, we'll look at this image. See this image. How did I paint something lit like this? You can see there's lights coming from here. There's lights on the top side. There's lights on the cheek. There's lights here. There's lights on his nose. There's lights here. Lights on his lips. Lights hitting his scalp. Lights on the ears. Lights. You can see here is lit also. If you look at the shirt and all those other stuff. So how do you paint something like this? Using tonal values. Where do we have shadow? When the form turns. As the form turns from one point to the next, if we zoom in, what do we see? See that dark edge here. See this point. See how lit here is. As it goes down, it gets darker. So this is what I talk about. See how lit this point is. As it's turning, it's getting darker. Guys, understanding this will really help your painting, whether it's illustration. This is the same way I handle other arts also. I've created some cool illustration for Web3 projects. I've done commissions also, trying to find some art where I use those same logic. It's not hard. It's to think, in that term. That is the way it works. That is the way it works. I have a lot of illustration. There's one illustration I'm looking for in particular. There are a lot of drawing I've made, so it's usually hard to find them. But I think the same thing applies. Okay, let's use this. So let's look at this. I'm going to push it up so you can see it. So if we look at this, you see the same thing is here. When we have all those other things outside lit, how do we handle the lighting for this one also? You can see there's lights coming from the flying candles, flying balloons. I've forgotten what it's called, flying lanterns, and you see it's hitting the form. But where do I put my darks? Where the form turns, where it changes direction. That is where I put my shadow, and then I say since we have light coming from those areas also, we'll add our shadow here, light coming from that area where it turns underneath the cheek, the neck, where it turns. So think about it like that. Where value turn, that where things turn, that is where you put your value, especially when you are painting with strong ambient light. So know how to use value. It helps your drawing read. Also, avoid excessive blending. And why do we say this? Why do people blend too much? Is because most times they are trying to they start focusing on details too early. This painting you see here, we talked about, I'll show you a progress of the painting. This is the progress of the painting. I think I still have it. I think I still have the progress of the painting. It's not that beautiful. It's really, really rough. Let me look for it. It's I've showed it before. It's a really old painting. So this is it. There was not much blending. So most of the time people will focus on the blending and they start blending things before they even add placeholders, sketch. I call it placeholders. You're figuring out proportion, measurement. But most people start focusing on the little details. No, focus on big shape first, then small shape. So if you start focusing on those little shape, you start blending things, thinking of colors you are not supposed to think of here. That's why most painters say, close your eyes a little bit and then look at the painting so you see overall colors. So if you blend too fast, you miss the point. And you can blend but thinking of the big shapes also, so to keep that in mind. So avoid excessive blending to really help you. We have talked about edges, and the best thing you should do, especially for painting, think to stop this stuff we are talking about, muddy painting. Even this sketch phase, you can still see everything reads. You can still see the beads, you can still see the eyes, the mouth, the ears, the cap, or the hat. So take note of these things. Don't just go all in and think you are going to start getting the whole thing out there. And also be patient. That's the last advice I'll give you. Be patient. Painting, illustration, if you want something of value, be patient. Except you are doing AI stuff. But if you want to create something of value, you need patience. I hope this was helpful. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment box and I'll reach out to you. And I hope you like and subscribe if you like what you are seeing. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.